What's good, family? I'm checking in. Today I got an interview with 99.7 WIDU. We finna head in now. You know you gotta put your mask on for you walk. So we finna tune in right now. I'll be back in a sec.
I'm David Camps, and I'm here for a special programming today, interviewing one of our local artists. But before we get into interviewing the local artists, I want to talk a little bit about voting. I know that on the radio station today, we've been hearing people talk about get out and vote, and we can't say it enough. It's 82 days left for Election Day, and we want you to get out and vote.
I have a guest with me this afternoon, D. Carral. He calls himself D. Carral. He's a local artist now. He lives here or resides in Fayetteville, North Carolina, which he's from Mississippi. M-I-S-S, was it I, quick letter I?
M-I-S-S-I-S-S.
Well, he's from here, and he's in this morning. I'm going to let him give an introduction about himself. We're going to listen to some of his music, some of his recorded music. We're going to talk about some of the lyrics, because we do believe that words matter. And it depends on how they're coming out, and I want people to hear what it is that he has to say through his music. D. Carral,
yes, sir.
It's on you.
How y'all doing this afternoon? My name is, I go by D. Carral. The D stands for Darian. That's just my first name. I'm from Vicksburg, Mississippi. I moved here to Fayetteville a little over a year ago. I would say the end of May 2019. But music is my life currently. Music is my life currently. I love it. I've been a part of it my entire life. Since I was a kid, I've always been on the stage. I've always been in front of people, having to perform, whether it was music, whether it was singing in church, whether it was contests and competitions, sports, everything. So my whole life I've been on the stage. So now I'm actually putting in the effort to chase this music career.
Well, you said you sung in church or did music in church.
Yeah, so I was in the kids choir, and, you know, grandma and mama wasn't playing it as a kid, so you're going to do what they say do.
You know, what's interesting, I had another person that I interviewed a couple of months ago, and he did a CD song, Black Lives Matter. And his mom, he had put some words in his song, and his mom didn't like the song, and she said that he had to take some of the words out. And so we're going to listen to some of your music as we go forward, and we know that some of your words had to be sanitized as well before we... Now, Mississippi, from Vicksburg, Mississippi, how did a young man come from Mississippi get here in Fayetteville?
It was a route. So went to Vicksburg High School in Vicksburg, Mississippi, graduated, went to Alcorn State University, which is a HBCU in the SWAC conference. If you're not sure what Alcorn State University is, it's in the same conference with Southern University, that's in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Grambling State University, which is also in Louisiana, Texas Southern, which is in Houston, and it's a couple more, Jackson State University, which is in Jackson, Mississippi. But once I graduated from Alcorn State University, I moved to Houston for a couple years. After that, I moved back to Vicksburg, Mississippi, went back to school and got my welding certificate. And that's when I got on that journey of traveling. I traveled for a little while, almost a year, doing welding. I would go up north mostly. Got tired of it pretty quick. It got old. Yeah, late nights, early mornings, and it got old 7 days a week. So don't get me wrong, I love welding. I still do it, just not as much. And I have a god brother that lives here. He was in the military by the name of Adam Reed, also known as Young King Trey. He also does music. And this is where I've been ever since. I came home. One day he happened to be home, hopped in the car with him, and was here the next day.
That's how you got, and most people come to Fayetteville through the military. And what's his name again? Young
King Trey.
Young King Trey. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk a little bit about your music. We're going to listen to one of your cuts that you recently did, and then we're going to talk about the lyrics of your cut. Cool. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back shortly. In the studio, I have with me D. Carral.
Yes,
D.
sir.
Carral, an
Yes,
upcoming hip hop artist, and we're going to listen to some of his music. But the first one we're going to listen to is "Being Black."
Being Black. Yes, sir.
Tell us something about that before we get ready to hear it.
Being Black is inspired by several events throughout history, and the title is in the name of the title, "Being Black." The inspiration mainly came from when George Floyd was killed in Minneapolis. The irony, I just came back from Minneapolis yesterday, and I got to see that they have a monument on the street that he was killed on. It's a fist, and they have a Juneteenth flag inside the fist, and they got everything blocked off for blocks. You can't drive, and you have to walk in it. They still protesting. But the lyrics are very powerful. They're very strong. It's going to put you in a time frame from beginning to end. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys understand it, and I hope you appreciate it.
Being Black by D. Carral. D. Carral. Words matter, and I heard throughout your throughout the song, I've heard about treating us, and they just want to lighten it up. And pro-black. Mm-hmm. What is pro-black to you?
Supporting anything that's black and is positive. So if you're black and you're moving forward and you're trying to be productive and you're trying to work for something, you're not doing the norm or what they think we're doing, what they put on TV that we're doing. You know, you got a lot of black people starting businesses. You got black organizations like Greek organizations. You have different organizations that are specifically catered to black people. I'm in support of all of it.
Okay, so does pro-black mean that you are anti any other race? No,
it just means I'm just because I'm for my people don't mean I'm against everybody else's people. Like that's like with the whole Black Lives Matter. You know, you hear people will say Black Lives Matter, and then people will say, well, all lives matter. We understand it. We're not saying that y'all don't. Mm-hmm. We're just saying that we do, because over the years, over the hundreds of years, it's clearly been shown in this country that we don't matter. And it seems like every time we take something and we make it our own and we come up with something, we're so creative and, you know, we're so original that somebody always gonna come and say, well, I want to do that too. Mm-hmm. You know, but it comes from a hate perspective versus an empowerment perspective for our people. It's weird. Like,
well, even at, how old are you?
27.
Even at 27 and me at 59, getting ready to turn 60, it's not weird, because when you hear people talk about black power back in the 70s, when we were talking about black power, it was almost as though that we were saying the opposite to other races, that black power and nobody else mattered.
Right.
But that's not the case. And so I'm listening to a young man at 27 years old, and you talk about pro-black, and the same meaning that we had back in the 70s is the same meaning that we have now.
Correct.
It doesn't mean that you are against anybody else.
Right.
It just means that you love your people.
Right.
And you want to support your people.
Right.
So when you look at it from the perspective of that you love your people and you want to support your people, last night there was I'm throwing a blank. Anyway, last night the vice president candidate Kamala Harris was announced, and on social media, well, not last night, the night before, social media,
I've been seeing,
they have been going wild in terms of throwing the hate towards her.
Right.
What do you think about that?
I get it, but I don't like it. I get it because they're saying that she's not African American, so she shouldn't represent the black people in America, right? But at the end of the day, she's still black. You know, it's not about necessarily the lineage, because I mean, if you want to be specific, we all come from the same place. You know, if you got melanated skin, you come from the motherland. It don't matter when, it don't matter where, it don't matter how. It just, your lineage comes from there. So it's not about the fact that her mother is Indian and her father is Jamaican. she's still black, and she's a woman, and she's in a position of power where she can change things. It's just a matter of will she, you know. I also saw with Joe Biden, he's reaching for the black vote. He's definitely trying to get the black vote because he made a statement, I want to say last week or maybe the week before, but he wants to implement. So if you're attending a HBCU and you make under $125,000 a year, you have the opportunity to go to school for free. Yeah.
Really?
Then he backdoored and came around and said, if you're alumni of a HBCU and you make under $125,000 a year, we'll wipe out your student loans.
Well, it's too late for me now, but that would have been ideal. I'm a product of Bowie State University. But when we start looking at the hate that's going out towards Harris, and coming from people that look like us, as well as those that don't look like us, and when you talk about pro-black and you say that everybody hates us, is it that everybody hates us, or do we hate ourselves?
I think it's a bit of both. I think it's, I don't know, we have this stature of black people supposed to be perfect in black people's eyes, and then it's like when your past come out, they stone you to death. But then if it's reversed and it may be a person that's not black and we're forgiven, it's okay. Everybody got a pass, you know. That's the thing I don't like about social media and us when we get on social media, because we'll throw stones at our own people, and we don't take into consideration that everybody has a past. Everybody's done something that they may not be proud of. It's just when you get into a certain position in the limelight, you know, the light gets shined on it. But I think we should embrace her more than, as a community, more than what we're doing now, because she's been picked, right? So it is what it is. I'm glad she's picked. I mean, I know a lot of people are not, but we got a black woman that's in power, or that could potentially be in power.
And the interesting thing that you said that that people are saying that she's not black. What is not black about her? Her father's Jamaican,
right?
And that's black,
right?
By all means, her mother was Indian. So she's
in my eyes, that's black too. If you want to go back a little, you know.
Exactly. Well, she went to Howard University,
right,
which is considered the Harvard of HBCUs.
Mm-hmm.
She pledged a sorority, an Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, mm-hmm, and we still get it that she's not black.
I think it's not that she's not black; it's that she's not African American. And to be honest, I might get some backlash on this, but I don't really like the term African American, because it's something that they gave us to make us feel equal, but still we're not equal. Don't get me wrong, I know that my lineage is from Africa. I know my people are from Africa, but I'm American. I've never been to Africa. So why is it that why do you have to separate it? You know, if we're all American, right? But black is something that African Americans are black, Jamaican Americans are black. I know I have Irish in my blood, black Irish in my blood. You have Irish men that are black, Irish women that are black. It's not about necessarily the African or the Irish or wherever. Black is black. Melanin is melanin. If you're melanated, you come from that part of where you're black.
Well, one of the things that I heard you say that they gave that to us. In actuality, we gave it to ourselves.
Yeah.
And it took some time before I could get into African American.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because, you know, I came up under the Black Power movement. It was first it was Afro American, then it went to black people, and actually the Elijah Muhammad was the one that started us with recognizing ourselves as black.
Mm-hmm.
And being recognized as black took all of what you just said into consideration, that we were all black.
Right.
And we all came from Africa. And then we went through this phase now, African American, and it took me some time to get used to that. And so you make a good point, a valid point, when you say that you're kind of skeptical on African Americans because you feel that people that come from other places, but before they got to Jamaica, they came from Africa. And they got off the boat there first. And so if we went back to the very foundation, yes, you're in America and you of African descent, and that's why they said African American. But there are those. I have an uncle who used to say colored.
Yeah.
And it used to turn my skin to hear to
they
this
kind of
day.
say it today. They say colored people, and you know it's funny because you don't hear people call Caucasian people European American. They just say American, when technically, you know, they not from here. You had from what I believe and what I read, our people was already over here. Some of them before the ships came over. You had the natives and black people living together already in harmony. You know, I got Cherokee in my blood. My great grandma, pure Cherokee.
But you know, I'm going to make a little joke. We used to say that all black families had some Indian in them, and they used to talk about the high cheekbone.
Yep.
And so we all go back. We are a mix. We are mixed in many different things. But when we start talking about black, what makes us African American? What makes us black? That would delineate her.
Right.
Or delineate President Obama, because that used to be the rhetoric they threw on him too. Is it because of the hue, the light skin,
right,
that we are still stuck in some type of antiquated view of what black is?
It's not he don't look like me. He not as dark as me, you know. So it's like it's a problem because then you feel like you're not represented. But at the end of the day, he's still black. Still a black man in office. It's still a black woman that could potentially be the vice president of the most powerful country in the world.
And so when I say that, because it had bothered me to hear African Americans or black, whatever we prefer to be called, to start turning on her and start bringing out her record. There were some things that were said that she broke the record of incarcerating more black men back in the 1990s and the early 2000s.
Well, we know who did that.
Well, the thing that we have to take into consideration is that when we look at the 1990s and the 2000s, well, the National Black Caucus was pushing for crime reform. And so when they were pushing for it, those that were in position at the time, as well as Clinton, because Clinton was...
That's what I was talking about. We know who did that.
Right. Clinton was behind it, too.
But he's the first black president, quote unquote.
Exactly. And somehow he gets a card, a pass.
Yeah.
And all these other candidates that come through, we don't give them a pass. We talk about what they have done back then. Biden is not skid-free either. So, and I'm not saying that to turn anyone against anyone, because our current president, I'm a product of New York. Our current president, what we see now, is the same thing that he displayed when I was living in New York. Slumlord, racism, all of those things that he was displaying. And so now we get to this point here when we start talking about pro-black. You in your music, you say pro-black. But it's also a phase of when we start talking about Black Lives Matter as well. And so when you look at the statement Black Lives Matter, what does that mean to you?
It means that it's in the name, Black Lives Matter. And it's crazy that we had to come up with that, because it shows just how much they don't. They've been killing us in the streets for years, hundreds of years. I mean, even with the police, when you think about the foundation and the origin of something, you have to go to that. You got to understand a lot of these quote unquote police officers, they started as slave catchers, and they doing the same thing they doing now that they were doing then. They either kill you in the street or they take you back to master house, which is prison now, right? And it's sad and it's sickening that we had to fight to be considered humans before civil rights, before equality. We had to be looked at as people first. Now you telling me, you looking at me in my face, and you see my hands, and you see my hair, you see my eyes, and I look just like you as far as features, but you call me an animal. That makes sense. I can talk. I can, you know. It's sad, and it just comes from a place of hatred, comes from a place of evil, and it's funny because through all these years of torture and just bad energy and things happening to the black culture and black community, we still here. So that say a lot. It say a lot. Can't nobody else go through something like this and survive and keep surviving. That's why they keep killing. They trying to kill us because they trying to figure out why is it that we've been killing them for over 500 years and they still here. They ain't died off yet. We can't.
And we came on a boat.
Exactly.
And those that didn't make it were thrown overboard.
Or they jumped overboard. Yeah.
But we're here. And how do we get the message out that our past is not something that should be celebrated and not downgraded?
Social media is helping with that. I don't know if the viewers have ever seen Hidden Colors. It's a documentary. It's a 5-part documentary. I can't call the brother's name right now. That created it, but that's where I kind of started. Just as far as going back, trying to find history, trying to figure out everything pre-slavery. Because in school, especially in Mississippi, they don't teach you about nothing before slavery. They highlight Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, the people that you grow up knowing, but they don't tell you about Mansa Musa. They don't tell you about Mali. You know what I'm saying? They don't talk about these things. So I think social media does a good job as far as an outlet where people can, because people have information, but they don't necessarily know how to get it out there, and a lot of people don't want to take it in because they feel like it's BS. Oh, no, they don't. You know, I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that." And it's like my mom always told me, if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book, because it's the stipulation of or the stereotype that we don't like to read. And it's sad, but it's true. I asked a couple of my homies, like, hey, I just asked them, hey, bro, you like to read? Nah, bro, I don't do no reading. I see it on social media, and okay. But then I try to give them a thick book, you know, or nice, I say maybe 2-inch book, and they don't want to read it.
Well, I think the interesting part that you said is that they don't want to read it. They'll get it from social media,
and that's where it helps it, because you have those people that have the what's it called, short attention span. Mm-hmm. You know, they can't really focus on a book. So social media, that's where social media kind of plays its part, and it helps out a little bit.
So what do you think about, you know, because this being black, everything that we're talking about now really is a part of your song, mm-hmm. in being black, how they treat us and what the things that you've seen, being real, everybody hate us. Mm-hmm. So when you view that everybody hates us, what actions do you want to take, or what actions do you feel like taking?
That's a good question. You know, honestly, it's nothing you can do when somebody hates you. You can only be yourself and continue to be yourself. You can't really control other people's actions, because I think if we did all the good in the world, it's still gonna be people that hate us. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, they wanna be like us, you know, until it's time to be black. Then they fall back like, nah, we don't want none of that. We don't want those problems. I saw this interview. I can't think of the lady's name, but she's a Caucasian lady, and she had a group of kids, college kids, and she asked them, how many of you guys realize or see what's going on in the black community and to our black brothers and sisters? And everybody raised their hand. She said, now, the people that had your hands raised, if you would want yourself or your family to be treated like that, keep your hands raised. And everybody put their hand down. That class was full of white kids. It says a lot. Mm-hmm. That means you know what's going on, you see what's going on, but you don't want nothing to do with it. But you know it's wrong.
And so if you know that it's wrong and you don't want to have anything to do with it, what does that make them?
A part of the problem.
And I think that is a part of the problem. Silence.
Yeah.
means that you're going along with everything.
Complacent with it, yeah.
So when we start looking back at, when Martin Luther King was rolling and doing certain things, he kept talking about nonviolence. But there were other people that were not talking about nonviolence. We really look at Malcolm X and we'll say, oh, Malcolm X was the radical one. He was the manly one, really, because he was talking about getting revenge by any means necessary.
Right.
When in fact, when he went over to his motherland, to Mecca, and he came back, he said that, well, all of the brothers over there, everybody was brothers all in one. And his views started changing, and he started, but he still was not insensitive, or he was still sensitive to the fact to know that people were afraid of him.
Correct.
If he acted a certain way.
Correct.
Your appearance here now, you're looking at me and you, and people will say, oh, he's a conservative one, and he's the one that's a free spirit. What do you think people think when they look at you? And when I say that, because you've got the natural, that now has become a norm, but it wasn't a norm before.
Right. That's funny you asked me that, because just yesterday I was saying that it's funny because I feel like I'm a threat just because I'm a black man, but then I don't feel like I'm a threat because I got like the innocent look, right? And it's like maybe I can use that to my advantage, but when people look at me, they see the stereotype, they see the locks, they see the dark skin. I don't sag, so I don't have to worry about that. But just those two alone, you get in the elevator with a lady, she gonna clutch her purse. But they was doing that before I had the locks. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's I don't know when people look at me, I don't really care, to be honest. I don't really, because if I focus on what every person thinks about me when they look at me, I'll go crazy.
And then you won't be real, because you said your song about being real. And I think that if anything we've got out of this is about being real and about being yourself, about accepting your heritage, accepting who you are, and not trying to be somebody else.
Exactly.
But it's also about love. Yeah. When we talk about black power or being pro-black, it's not about hate. It's about loving yourself.
It's not about anybody else but us. It's all about love and prospering and positivity for us. That don't mean that we want negative things to happen to other people or bad things. Do y'all thing. Whatever you need to do it. But don't do it at the expense of other people. And that's Black Lives Matter is not that. They take the rioting and the protesting and all that, and they try, the media flips it, and they show all these people looting, and most of the people weren't even black that was looting. But because everything that's going on, Black Lives Matter, the media just boom. It's the black people that's doing it.
Because of stereotypes, perception. Well, D. Carral, it was good talking to you for this 45 minutes, and we hope to have you back.
Yes, sir.
To come back and talk a little bit more about your music. I don't want anyone to, we're in a different era where there's certain music that I liked in my era, and sometimes you can't listen to when you hear a beat. We automatically think that it's not important. But what I want to say is that words matter. Words matter, and your words matter in your being black. But we're going to have you back, and we're going to talk more about your music and talk about where you're going. And I know that you've been flying all around the country doing interviews on radio shows, and I wanted to give you an opportunity here in Fayetteville. So thank you, D. Carral, and
thank you.
We hope to have you. Well, I know we're going to have you back.
Sir.
I'm going to bring you back again so we can talk more about yourself.
Okay, cool.
You've been listening to a special broadcast from David Camps, interviewing D. Carral, one of our up-and-coming artists, a graduate of Alcorn State University in Mississippi, one of our HBCUs, and their colors purple and gold.
Yes, sir.
You've been listening to WIDU in this special broadcast. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, everyone have a blessed day.
Your station